Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Sledgehammer / Gear Grinder? You know, I didn't realize this initially, but this game has actually been out for a long time. It came out in 2008 in Russia, and has now been re-released on Steam in 2014, which is a bit mind-boggling. And they changed the name to Sledgehammer, but they kept Gear Grinder as part of the title, which is really, well, I do, but no. It's really confusing. I'm very, very, very confused as to why they did that. So, it's by a company called Targem, who are a reasonably large Russian developer. They made games like Hard Truck Apocalypse, which is certainly ropey in many, many places, but it certainly has its own merit. They also developed Check vs. Mate, which was that kind of battle chess thing. I'm pretty sure they had to rename that because of legal concerns. And they made Insane 2, and Planets Under Attack as well, which was, I would say, almost like a Galcon clone. So they've had a really weird history. They've never developed anything that blew my mind, certainly. And it's this game in particular I'm going to focus on today, because when stuff like this pops up on Steam under a different name, and you search Sledgehammer and you can't find anything, then you think, alright, okay, well, this is going to be a new title, right? And you also go and look at the Steam page and it says, yeah, it was released in 2014, this is totally a new game. The thing is that it's not a new game, and while Steam does put the release date in very, very small text on the store page, putting it up there as a brand new title on the release list, particularly when it's renamed itself, so it's much harder to do research on, is in my opinion somewhat disingenuous. And I'd definitely like to see Steam resolve that and stop releasing titles under new releases that are actually old games. Anyway, since we're in it now, we might as well have a look at it. Usually I don't go for older titles on Steam, but lately it's just been getting much harder to distinguish, especially with these Russian releases that you've never heard of. It's like, oh, well, it looks like a new release, particularly when they made a new bloody logo for it. Alright, let's head to the video options, shall we? It's fine. Seems to have most of what it requires. It has an unlocked frame rate, which is always nice to see. Then you got your AA, anisotropic filtering, shaded quality, shadows, glow, depth of field, heat haze, and soft particles. So that menu looks fine. Nothing really out of the ordinary there. If we go to audio, it's really got what you expect. Separate sliders, which is always nice to see. You can navigate with the mouse, by the way, even though it doesn't look like you can. It actually works totally fine. And the buttons, as you can see, are rebindable. So, nothing to really complain about on the settings side of things. I have no idea what that is. I couldn't in any way tell you what that is. I don't know what a root cap is. Some crazy Russian mind control device, I would imagine. So, being an old game, obviously the multiplayer is completely dead, so that leaves you with what? The single player. Well, let's have a look at it. I'll show you exactly what's going on. So, this is a car combat game, or more specifically a truck combat game, with a variety of different events. Now, when you get mostly first place, but sometimes second place on these levels, you're able to unlock upgrades, which can be accessed through the garage. Now, let me show you what some of these are all about. So let's hop into one of the previously done races, and then I'll show you some of the issues later on. So this is just a straight up race. Alright, let's rock and roll, shall we? Now you may notice we have Discount Mutant Christopher Walken in the corner there. What the hell is wrong with his face? Especially to the left there. I'm not really sure what's going on. I have a feeling that they liked Carmageddon and decided they wanted to kind of ape that a little bit. And they kind of did. But the weird thing about it is that he moves his mouth like he's talking when he isn't speaking. I have to assume this has got something to do with the translation from Russian to English, but they never bothered to redo the lip syncing. It's a little bit weird. Now, your truck has two modes. Combat mode, which slows your truck down and deploys your weapons, and racing mode, which deploys your rocket booster. You can also lay mines in racing mode, but not in combat mode, because, screw logic? I don't know. It doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. You build up your boost meter by destroying cars, both NPC and the actual drivers in the race themselves. And you go for the win. Really simple as that in a race. But there are a number of different race types available, some of which are really odd, I've got to say. The problem with these races, at least the basic races, is they're ridiculously easy. Absurdly easy to win. So you can just slide your way through here, no problem at all. I mean, that's another checkpoint there. And since there's nothing to fight, it gets a little bit boring. I mean, the racing itself is not very challenging, so you're kind of left to your own devices to just smash some cars to get some boost here and there. And it'll do, like, it won't even do any damage to you unless you end up hitting something really, really hard. You can see I'm basically taking no damage. And that will give you boost. Or you can go to combat mode and attack here if you so desire. And that will build up a rage bar, which is separate from your boost bar. Don't know what it is about games using the term rage as some kind of usable resource. Rage is not a resource, trust me. Unless, of course, you happen to be working for Machinima. There we go. Wonderful. I mean, half of me is actually quite impressed by the physics. There are some areas of the map which can be destroyed, which is pretty cool. They will collapse like that. And it works pretty well. And instead of car corpses just disappearing or becoming kind of transparent ghosts, the car corpses do linger and they get in the way. So, well, at least for a little while. But never mind. Only some of them get in the way. So there's a bit of inconsistency there. But some of them do, you know, and that's pretty cool. The problem is that, again, these races are just stupid easy. But then that comes onto another problem. The fact that the game has this selection of modes, and the difficulty is ludicrously inconsistent. The racing itself is very, very easy, but there's this weird kind of battle race format they use, which has a constantly reducing timer, which you can only extend by destroying cars. The problem is that the cars are also shooting back at you, and if you get ahead of them, which is what you would think you would have to do in a race, you get no time extension resources. So you can't stay ahead of them because you die, so you've got to stay at kind of the back of the pack, which is really contrary to what you would expect out of a racing game, as you might imagine. But, I mean, I don't even know where my opponents are at this point. I guess we talk about handling while we're doing this. It's not a particularly fast game unless you're using your boosters. If you even go up a slight incline, even in race mode, your truck will go down to really, really slow speeds, which is very, very strange. I guess they were extremely dedicated to the notion of you driving a truck and it feeling like a truck. And it kind of does, you know, it's definitely a bit front-heavy. It swings the back around quite nicely. You can even use that to ram enemy cars, which is kind of cool, I suppose. But the tracks don't really have a lot of creativity to them, so the way that the cars handle is largely irrelevant because you're not going to be finding yourself going around anything crazy, at least in the normal race mode. That said, there is a slalom mode, which we will try out. I haven't tried that one yet. There's just a single level, at least on stage 2, that lets you do that. That may very well allow you to use the handling a little bit more than this does. It's strange, really, because usually I'd praise a variety of game modes, but it kind of demonstrates the inconsistency in the title. Some of the modes are really, really easy. Some of them are really difficult. Some just make no sense. Like, they just shouldn't even be there in the first place. Alright, well, that was a finish. And I think I was about 30 seconds ahead of the pack, so it wasn't exactly too difficult. First place, there we go. I don't know what points are for. From what I can tell, they don't seem to be for anything. The only thing that matters is whether or not you get a silver and a gold so that you can unlock either the next race or an upgrade. So we head to the garage here. It's so strange because the in-game menu says the game's Gear Grinder, but Steam says it's Sledgehammer, so go figure. They didn't even bother to change the loading screen. You can swap out your weapons. For what I can tell, it's pretty much linear upgrades. I mean, that looks cool, but this, it just says does more damage straight up, so just use that. You probably didn't even see the Cyclops laser firing because it is such a weenie weapon. There's a so-called super attack that you can do when you build up your rage meter, but all that does is make the lasers home in a bit. I was expecting some kind of really impressive barrage of firepower, but you don't really get it. And then you got your side cannons there as well. You can put spikes on it. I do like this, you know. I've been into combat racing titles for a while, and I think it all came down to when I was a kid, I played with one of our distant relatives, a game called Car Wars by Steve Jackson, and it was kind of great. And I think I enjoyed that a lot, so I was into the idea of car combat, and of course loved things like Vigilante 8 and State 76, Twisted Metal. Unfortunately, this game is really not up to the standard of any of those, not even close. But yeah, these upgrades are very, very linear. And then you've got this, which, again, bunch of linear upgrades. If you've got them, upgrade. There's no reason not to. Doesn't seem to be a disadvantage to any of it whatsoever. And for the love of God, if you do get an armor upgrade, which I guess I'm using that right now. Yeah, I am. Strangely enough, you can downgrade your brakes. I'm not really sure why you want to do that, but when you upgrade the armor, it just puts it on, and that's it. You don't need to fiddle between the two of them. And you need that armor upgrade, by the way. Which is also a kind of a weird thing, just a minor point. The way that the upgrade system works is you've got to either get first or second place, or whatever the objective is for silver and gold, in order to get the upgrade. There's a really key upgrade in the training level. If you don't get it, you pretty much can't beat counterattack. It's impossible. You take too much damage. And the game doesn't tell you where the upgrades are in each level. So there could be one that's totally useless, like a piece of concept art, and the other one could be a vital upgrade required for your progression. So you have to go back and dig through the old levels to find out what you missed, which is a little silly. Let's try the slalom level. I've got to give him credit for this commitment to different kinds of racing. That's okay. Alright. So, actually, I have done slalom before. This is actually in the training mode, so it's drive through a bunch of circular checkpoints, I believe. Yeah, this is the same as the one that was in the training mode. So, drive through as many of these as possible, and make sure you keep doing it, otherwise you will run out of time. And this works fine. There's nothing particularly special about it, and it kind of eliminates the point of driving a heavily armed and armored truck. But hey, again, it's a bit of variety, and it does break up the monotony, so all credit to them for that. I like the fact that they did that, even though some of these modes don't make any sense. But I will show you one in particular that is just kind of ridiculous. It seems to ape some of the sort of crash party stuff that was done in Burnout. I think that's got something to do with it, but it doesn't do it really well at all, because it doesn't utilize the physics engine in any way. You just kind of get up to maximum speed, and then there's a little cutscene where you smash the stuff, and that's it. So I wasn't really impressed by that. Considering the physics engine actually seems to be okay in this game, you'd think that they could have done a proper Crash Party style mode, but they didn't seem to. There's also some survival Destruction Derby style modes, which have constantly respawning enemies. Survive as long as you can and fight, but the combat system isn't very interesting, and the arena's even less so, the actual racing aspect is probably the strongest part of it. There we go. No, this is not really that interesting. And obviously the game doesn't look very good either, because it turns out it is from 2008. I quite like the heat distortion effects around the engines, but everything else is pretty poor. The models on the trucks are okay, but the texture resolution is very low. And there are occasionally what I would call pedestrians, but they actually seem to be more like walking crash test dummies, and the modeling and the animation quality on those is just dreadful. So, not much to be impressed with there, I gotta say. That and this guy's face in the corner is just kind of hilarious. The story is instantly regrettable. And I say regrettable rather than forgettable. I'd rather it just be forgettable, but I regret even coming into contact with it. It's just that stupid. The primary voice actor in this game is awful. And I suppose that's to be expected from a Russian game. It's not out of the ordinary. It doesn't matter that much. I'll get myself a silver here. I didn't get perfect, so I didn't get gold, which is unfortunate, but there you go. I might get an upgrade from it. Yep. New boosters, which one assumes are just flat out better than my other boosters. Yup. I don't really like it when they do that. I much prefer choices when it comes to my loadouts, and this game does not give you that. Now, let me demonstrate some weird stuff that is really strange and really shouldn't be in the game, in my opinion, in any way. So, let's go with you're going to pay. Oh my. Also, here's a cutscene for you. Oh dear.
Yeah.
You're driving me crazy, Jack.
Get off!
If you cut me off, you die.
Wanna dare me?
We've implanted a bomb in your brain. If you disobey the orders, you die.
I'll do it, but you're playing with fire.
That very well could be either the greatest or the worst thing I've ever seen. I couldn't tell you. That's pretty funny. What I think we need is a video compilation of all the cutscenes in this game. Because the translation combined with the non-existent lip syncing and awful voice acting is almost... Oh god. It's gone out of my brain. What's it called? It's not called Zero Gear. It's called something else Zero. You know, the all your bases belong to us shooter. It's that level of dreadful. I'm outraged, and when I'm outraged, everyone around me is going to suffer. If I don't relieve the stress, I'm going to explode, bomb or no bomb. I recommend a healthy dose of masturbation. Let's get in here. This level is really quite silly, if I recall correctly. Ah, it's not actually this one. So this is just blow up cars. And you just keep hitting cars, and you end up getting more points for every car you hit. It's really that simple. Okay. Well, I guess it was worth it to show you the ridiculous cutscene. So let's get out of this. It wasn't this one I was looking for. There's a couple of those kind of crash party modes that are really weird. Counterattack isn't it. It's got to be... Well, diversion's got to be one of them.
Here's the cordon I need to destroy.
Alright. So this one, you drive this tiny explosive car, but you have this sort of power shot golf system going on here, where you've got to set your bars within the red markers to get a sudden burst of speed. Then avoid the cars, drive the little thing around, and then hit the target. Or not. That's the level. That's the entire level in a nutshell. And that one's weird enough. But the weirder one is the one that I'm actually trying to find here. Could be... It's not ambush, I don't think. Yeah. Where is it? Ah, the bet. That's the one. So you can see it's got the symbol of bowling. Well, there's a reason for that. Because, as I said before, it's got this kind of crash party mode, but it's just terribly implemented. Alright, here we go. So it gives you that boost. You go down the hill, and you smash through this, and that happens. I don't even understand what happened in that level. It just, as soon as I went around the corner, it cut to a cutscene, so... I don't know. Why have a physics engine if you're not going to use it? I really don't get that. Alright, so there's one final thing I'd like to show you in this game, and this one is really, really strange, because I can't even figure out how to do this. I cannot. Oh, actually, let me take back what I said previously. It turns out it does tell you what upgrades you get, so throw that criticism out of the window. That is there. So, this level, it says you've got to, like, destroy 90% of the stuff on the level. Yeah? So, you'd think that perhaps it would be a fairly easy thing to do. That sounds reasonable. Destroy 90% of the objects. Okay, cool. So you just drive around smashing stuff up. But you don't. You've got only 30 seconds to do it. And it's really very, very difficult to do that. So, break roadwork cones. Okay. Well, I've missed them now, so that's not going to happen. So there we go. We smash into a couple of cars here and there. You get very easily slowed down. Try smashing that. And I've had a lot of difficulty trying to achieve this and get the required points. It seems really, really challenging to do it, and I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong. You only have 30 seconds, and I smashed 12% of the stuff on the level. From what I understood from the cutscene, you have to get to the diner and run some people over, but getting to the diner takes quite a lot of effort. It says smash through the roadwork cones, which I'm doing, but then that slows you down a lot. Kind of wastes your boost. I suppose you want to avoid the trucks, hit some more roadwork cones. There we go, boost again. Hit the cars on the way out. Maybe you can get 1, 2, possibly 3. And then go to the diner. Hit that. No, that car swerved, never mind. The diner's right up here. Boost a bit more to get to the diner. Here we go, here we go. And then it ends the level, like, for you, before the timer even goes out. As soon as you reach the diner. And that's 28% destruction. How can you possibly beat that level? But it's required to actually go to the next stage. I have no idea what I'm doing wrong. I don't. This should be self-explanatory, but it doesn't seem like there's any way to pick up extra time on this level. And even doing what it suggests, which is hit the road cone, slows you down so much. I do not understand what you have to do here. I don't see how it's even possible to do this level. So I'm stuck here, basically. I can't even progress any further in the game. Because I just have no idea how to beat this level. It doesn't even give you a map or any kind of indication either. I assume that little thing on the side is a gauge as to how much you've destroyed, but that's it. How do you blow up 90% of the objects on the level? Especially when you go to the diner, it actually ends the level for you. I don't get it. I do not understand. I feel like I'm doing something stupid, but I have a feeling I'm not, and it's just kind of balked. And I can't go any further now in the game because of that. So, yeah, that's it. That is Sledgehammer, aka Gear Grinder. I think it's an example of trying to... I don't know if they're trying to rename it to fool people, or if it's just a legal reason. But they left both titles in there, and the title screens in the game say Gear Grinder, but it says Sledgehammer on the Steam page, along with the Sledgehammer logo, which makes me scratch my head. You'd almost think that they may have remastered the game, but I don't see any evidence of that. It certainly looks very old, and they clearly haven't even bothered to redo the cutscenes so that the lip-syncing goes in properly with the English voice acting. The character just gibbers randomly, silently, for no apparent reason, like a crazy person. I don't even know what that's all about in the corner. It's not very good, I'm afraid. I appreciate the variety of levels, but a lot of them are badly executed and don't make a lot of sense, and then there's levels like that one, which I don't even see how you can beat. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that either. I looked at the forums, there wasn't a single answer. It doesn't seem like anyone's really played it far enough to get past that. The multiplayer scene is obviously dead. So it's a shame, you know, car combat games could be very good, and there are several great examples of car combat games in the past, but this again is not one of them. And it seems like the Russians keep trying to make car combat games and singularly fail to do it. And if you're going to buy a truck game from these guys, Hard Truck Apocalypse is probably a better idea. It's actually an action RPG in post-apocalyptic trucks. It's a very, very, very weird game. Like, they wear masks so they don't have to animate the lips, for God's sake. It's that ridiculous. And it's got its own problems. It's janky as all hell, but at least it has an interesting premise. This is just silly, and it's not very enjoyable in any way. And as I said, I think it's another example of Steam needing to do a better job when it comes to curation. It's even trying to get me to leave. I would love to, game. I'd love to. Just let me finish my video. They need to be a bit more careful with their curation. They shouldn't allow companies to rename their game and fool consumers, potentially. And more to the point, if a game comes out that has already been out for years, it should be more readily indicated on the front page. It should be. Because anything that pops up under new releases, you would expect to be a new release. And we're seeing so many old games just pop up on Steam. I understand, but I think, honestly, they actually need a separate chart, a separate new release section for things that are actually new. New games are getting buried under old games that keep coming out en masse on Steam, who have apparently opened the floodgates to this publisher's entire catalog, for one thing. I mean, 3 other things on the front page right now are Hard Truck Apocalypse, and it's other expansion packs and things like that, which, again, are games from, what, at least 8 years ago, I think? They're pretty ancient. And there's a lot of stuff that really should just be on GOG, but hey, Steam can stock it, but I'd like to see a separate list on the front page that says, these games are new, these are actual new releases, so we don't get these new releases buried by tat like this, and so the consumers are not potentially misled into believing that this is a brand new title when it's actually been around for 6 or 7 years under a different name. So yeah, this video serves more as a warning and perhaps a pulpit from which to preach when it comes to the way that Steam curates its content on the front page. The game is instantly forgettable and regrettable, and it doesn't really have an awful lot of merit going for it, which again, as a car combat fan, disappoints me greatly. Hopefully we'll get a good solid car combat game in the near future. I wouldn't count on it. This is available for $8 on Steam if for some reason you wish to purchase it. And you'll actually not find it on the front page anymore because it went up, I think, 2 days ago, and it's already been buried by other old games. Lovely. Just lovely. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Sledgehammer / Gear Grinder, currently available on Steam. I'll see you next time.